All right, so welcome everybody to the stream. Hopefully it starts this time. There we go. I think it's live. Yep, there we go. Okay, so I apologize. I started the crowdcast session, and then after jumping into the crowdcast session, uh, the stream URL was wrong for about 10 minutes until a peer of mine messaged me, "Hey, no show today," and I said, "Yes, there is a show. I just accidentally foobarred and was recording to the wrong stream URL." So, anyways, nothing happened. I just apparently did a show for myself for about 10 minutes. So, this is part of the fun of being a sort of trying to do media operations on your own sometimes, right? And trying to run things by yourself as you make mistakes. And that's okay, right? Part of my goal is with this show and Commons Forge that I'm building is to show that we're humans. It's okay to make mistakes. And that when you build a business, you build things and you build things in this Web3 world that we're building, we're humans and we're going to make mistakes. And so, yeah, I foobarred the stream. So it is what it is. Let me repost this and I will just give an abbreviated version of the intro and everything else. And then we'll get into it. For those that don't know me, I will go ahead and pull up my intro slide real quick and then we'll jump into it. Give me a second here while I pull it up. All right. And so let's see here. Share the screen. All right. So again, welcome to the show. The show is called Ask Shai or AskSh.ai. That's jokingly because that's the domain I picked up. My name is Shai Perednik. I am the host of the show. I've been in IT for about 28 years. The last 6 years of those were at AWS, and the last particular 3 years, we're building the Web3 partner ecosystem with a whole bunch of awesome people as a global tech leader and the segment business leader, and taking on the title now of Global Technology Humanitarian and Chief Catalyst and founder at Commons Forge, which is the Web3 venture studio that I'm starting, which I'll talk about a bit later. If you want to follow me, Twitter or LinkedIn, you can also try the domain AskSh.ai or my domain shaiperednik.com, and probably the many other domains that I have out there. So with that, let's get started. The fun thing is that when you do things the second time, they tend to work much better. So quick disclaimer, the aim of the show is really to entertain and to educate as well. Nothing that I say as part of the show should be considered financial advice of any kind. Please consult with a financial professional, right? Talk about your investment decisions. I aim to really educate about the technical primitives and what the technology is in the space. That's the area that I focus on. So with a quick background on myself and the way I kind of think of my journey throughout the internet and this, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 world that we call, I think of my journey as kind of riding the waves. And that's really because of the notion that my dad instilled on me very young, that when you're out in the ocean, you don't have anything to rely on besides yourself and the waves. And you want to ride the first wave that comes to you or the next wave that comes to you so you can ride it back to shore, and you don't have a boogie board, you don't have anything, right? So he made me do it freestyle, swimming on a wave. And his analogy was that when you're on a wave and you're riding that wave, you can see the shore, you can see it clearly in front of you. And my passion has always been about building that and bringing people along with me. And so really 94 through 2006 was really the kind of start of my IT career. Really digging into everything I could in technology around startups and military eventually when I was in the Navy. And then a lot of work in CPG, consumer product goods, everything around retail, e-commerce, and all that stuff in between. In 2006 to 2020, kind of the long 14-year span or so, with a good 10 years of that chunk being really, 2010 having discovered Bitcoin and the Bitcoin white paper. But in 2006, I think really with the advent of cloud was coming up then, in 2007, we had the iPhone. To me, that was really the next technology wave or that Web 2 evolution. And I rode that as well, right? I did everything I could to dig into this world of cloud and app development and serverless and NoSQL databases and cloud backups and everything that I could possibly find through architecture and through mentoring sessions that I would do. And I got into many industrial manufacturing roles or industrial manufacturing companies, and enterprise spaces, and sort of and many other industries in between. And then really was 2020 when I really saw and I felt there was really strong. I felt that strong conviction that this Web3 world was kind of ready. And really for me was because of the programmability level that we had achieved, not just in Ethereum only, but the other per, smart contract platforms, right? Layer one chains that we were seeing at the time that were starting to pop up, and some that were already there from 2017. But kind of that programmability and the distributed compute was finally there, in a way that made sense to me. That I really started digging everything I could into it and try to understand everything that I could into space. And what was Web3, what we define it, what was all this blockchain stuff that I knew from previous years, and learned everything I could about it. What was it now sort of changing into in this Web3 world? And so I spent, again, the better part of the last 3 years defining what Web3 and blockchain was at Amazon, and at AWS specifically within the partner organization. It was a very fun role, lots of awesome people, and then got to lead a lot of that innovation, and technology leadership. And now with Commons Forge, my goal is really to continue that journey into 2037. I don't know what will happen after that. I just think it's sometimes silly to plan too far in the future. I have some ideas of what that future might look like, but when I think of building Commons Forge, the reality of it is that it's not going to last forever. And so my goal is also to continue to distribute it and make it that company I want it to. And so I want to give myself that 15-year time frame. Maybe by then we'll actually have Web 4.0, or that silly Web 5.0 that we had for a little while. I'll wrap it up with just talking about kind of my approach to life. A bit of what my dad taught me was, life comes in waves at you, right? And you really want to respect that nature, you want to respect the power of nature, respect those waves, try to ride opportunities, right? Look for opportunities. It's not about gaps. It's not about finding gaps, it's about finding opportunities, that you could then ride those gaps, because as you are running towards those opportunities, right? Gaps tend to instill fear. If you're running into those opportunities, you'll learn those unconventional lessons in life, like my dad taught me, of, hey, you have to just ride the wave with no boogie board. So I that's something that really resonates with me and something I want to kind of stick on with throughout my life. Um, let's get started with briefly what is Commons Forge, and I won't, again, for the sake of time, because I also started late. I won't go into too much detail about what the Forge is. There's a video I'm producing on that, and there's a draft video that's up on the DocSend and the block survey link. There's also a narrative out there as well. So if you want to find out more, please do check out those links. And if you're not sure where to find them, you can find them again at Shai Perednik and AskSh.ai, any LinkedIn, Twitter there, or just message me on any of these and I'll share those with you as well. Again, things are kind of formalizing. And so this week was the official launch of Commons Forge. It was also my last week at Amazon. And so with that, I launched Commons Forge. And the goal is really to continue building in this space. And there's gonna be a lot more to come out. Again, I'll share more as the details come out. I'll share some of that today. But the goal is really to build a venture studio, right? It has two functionalities, and then I'll talk about the nonprofit in a second. Really helping developers and builders in this space understand how to build and how to navigate this space, right? Providing them the technical resource, that technical guidance to help them move along in this space. I think that's something that's very much needed in this space. And I think there's an opportunity to really build a lot of foundational content, resources, material, workshop, all these things that can be done. But one of the key ways to do that is by also developing product, right? You validate your methods, you build machines, and you build mechanisms and frameworks and tools, because you can validate them as products, right? You're able to reiterate them very quickly, as you're going through that customer cycle, as opposed to a waterfall approach of trying to build something in a silo. And so that's very much my approach to kind of everything I do in the sort of business and tech world, is iterative, right? It's about quality, not quantity, but it's about focusing on the right things. And so you may deploy very often, you may change things very often, but what you're not changing the larger picture. That larger picture is still there. You're still working towards that goal, but you're iteratively working through it as you're going through that cycle. That's an agile approach, right? That's the adaptable process, where we then get products that are really molded to our customers. And so that's again the approach I'm taking. We're building things with internally. We're building things with partners as well. We'll be collaborating with our development partners are out there. There's so many awesome builders in the space when it comes to Web3 accelerators that have the resources, whether they're professional solutions offers or strategic integrators. That they have the blockchain developers, they have the blockchain architects, they have the container architects and container engineers and all the resources you need. The goal is really to partner with those and help bring a lot of these initiatives and projects to life, and accelerate a lot of these initiatives with a lot of the building that we can do together. Right? It's very difficult to do these things alone, and we have to do them together. So that's really what the Forge is about, right? It's about forging that relationship at an early age from the very beginning together, right? Building that partnership. Kalman is my father's name, and I really want to honor the really the societal building that's been in my ancestors for generations. And so with that, the final part is the nonprofit. The nonprofit's goal is really about taking a lot of the research and education, a lot of the initiatives that we're looking to do, and accelerating those through the nonprofit arm so that we don't have to charge for a lot of these things, right? A lot of things that I want to do and things I want to build out there, we can go down the route of the core open source model, right? Where you're building open source products, you're building open source initiatives, you're working with the community, you have a very open and transparent uh, way of doing business and way of operating, and then you look for opportunities within that stack to commercialize those products, right? And create initiatives off those products, create products off of those initiatives, because you have to bring in cash flow, right? It's very difficult to run just a nonprofit, and so that's why there is the for-profit side, there's a nonprofit side, but a lot of the education, a lot of the community initiatives are going to be driven through the nonprofit side. And so with that, I want to share a bit of the timeline just to give everybody an idea. If you're watching this on the recording, if you are catching up, or if you're watching it live, and if you do have any questions, please do share them in the comments and the questions. I'll go ahead and answer them in a moment. Let me bring up the screen share one more time. And also let me just double check on the live stream, make sure that stream's still going. Let's see if this works well. So one of the things I like doing is mind mapping. I think mind mapping is a very powerful tool when you're trying to not just articulate what you're doing, but when you're trying to understand on your own what you're doing. And so I went ahead and put a lot of the milestones and things that we're trying to achieve in a mind map. And again, there's a lot more detail in the narrative, and there's going to be a lot more details are going to come out. I'm going to share a lot more details on future episodes on individual projects, and we're gonna dig into what strain chain is, what NFT Loteria is, what the consultancy tokenomics are, and what those model of tokenomics is. We're going to dig into those things. I'm going to build these things in the open, in the public, because I want to show the challenges and the way that you overcome some of these things. And so the where we're at today, right? We're still wrapping up June here, kind of finalizing things for the initial launch in July. Looking to bring on partners as those launch partners, right? So we can build that Forge as a community from the very beginning. You'll hear some of those partnerships come out over the month of July. You're going to see a Give Butter campaign go live. Give Butter is similar to GoFundMe. My belief is very much that yes, VCs are valuable. There's a need for VCs. There's a need for angel investors. There's a need to give up equity when it's the right time from the founder's equity, not the team equity. You don't touch the team equity. But there's a time and place for that, right? And so my belief is if I'm building something that is a Forge, right, is about the communities, about building from the ground up, it's about building together, then I want to do that in that kind of crowdfunding campaign way. And Give Butter allows me to do that. There are plenty of Web3 solutions out there. Unfortunately, just as a US citizen with limited resources at the moment to set up offshore entities and stuff like that, I just want to keep things simple. I want to focus on technology, and it just makes sense to kind of launch and deploy in the Web 2 way for now. And there will be certain projects like the NFTs which will need to deploy in the Web 3 way, right? They're tokens. They're going to have their own launch. NFT Loteria will be the same thing. Our decentralized restaurant model doesn't exist really in that without that Web 3 component in there. So we're going to also show how do you move from that Web 2 world to the Web 3 world, right? How do you build an enterprise and move from that Web 2 world to the Web 3 world as we're going along this journey? And so we'll get that Give Butter campaign going. Again, that'll be in the beginning of July here. And then we're going to kick off as well a pre-seed round, right? Get some angel investors, VCs involved that really understand the long-term vision of the project, that understand that our goal is really to build this machine that can last the test of time. And the products are really a step along that way, right? It's really about the journey. The products are not the end goal, right? They will spin off, they'll run on their own, they'll probably be their own startups, many of them. That's really the model we're building after. But what's going to happen is there will be equity opportunity in those startups, right? I'm kind of going through really creative models with looking at the Y Combinator SAFE model, and how do you apply that same model to a project you're incubating so that you don't take their equity. I think that's really important. And so I'm looking at how do I build that structure that's very equitable to the builder and very favorable to the builders that are out there, right? So you'll see a lot of that come out, right? That'll be part of that pre-seed round. And then we're going to try things. Not everything is going to work, right? Some things are not going to work. We're going to learn things from that. And then in Q2, we will launch our sort of official seed round itself, right? Where we'll go for proper funding, probably more of the VC funding, right? A lot more of the higher capital funding, where we now have a lot of the foundational structure in place. Our team roles are very well defined. We've structured out the overlay team. The two pizza teams are kind of starting to form for the individual initiatives. And so by Q2, which will come roughly in October, if things go according to plan, right, we'll be able to launch that seed round, and then that will then hopefully so for clarity, sorry, we'll close that seed round by Q2. So we'll close that seed round by October. And so what will then happen is, if that seed round is closed by October, it'll give plenty of runway into the end of the year to start hiring headcount, bringing people on board, and start bringing on the rest of the development team and resources that we need to not only scale out our projects and initiatives that we are testing our methodologies with and building out there with the community, but also some of these projects and protocols and initiatives that other founders are coming to us and looking for help, right? Our goal is to be that forge and that place where we can help teach them and help them with the technology side of things, and then partner with the VCs that are looking for those vetted projects, right? I hear very often, VC will sit and go through hundreds of projects and pitches and stuff like that. We have AI. You don't need to do that anymore. And frankly, there's a lot of projects that just stink. And so the idea is, how do you weed through those pretty quickly? Again, not only myself, I have the experience. The people are going to be in the circle. The bigger partner ecosystem that we're building has that experience to weed through those. And we're going to use AI tooling. We're going to use machine learning. We're going to use blockchain tooling to better understand our what's called the deal flow, right? Where are those technical resources coming in? What are they creating? How they're creating it? And optimize that process so that we can ensure that there's always a match made in heaven for the technical resources that we incubate, and the VCs that we work with, and angel investors, and everybody else that we work with on the money side of things. So that's the goal, right? We're forging our place in history, right? This is a critical time for Web3. There's many years of this innovation to come, and now is really that critical time. So you're going to see some really cool initiatives like consultancy tokenomics, NFT Loteria in Q4, the nonprofit kicking off in Q1 as well. I'm really excited about the Breaking the Stigma with Education event that we have, that I'm setting up for August 24th. If you want to be part of the event, if you want to be part of the session, please do let me know. There is a sign-up form where you can go fill in and you can join the session. And I'm actively working with a couple of education institutions to further distribute and share the content out. The goal is really to teach educators from the technologist perspective how the Web3 layers can be used in the classroom as a tool. So how is blockchain a tool in the classroom? For example, certificates and being able to certify grades, records, and performance on chain, and the effects and how that's being used in countries like Africa. The data layer, right? That's the data layer, the interpretation layer, machine learning, right? How are we using machine learning in the classroom to better analyze what students are doing, how teachers are doing it, right? When it comes to like test scores, for example, performance scores, how are the lighting in the classroom affecting those, right? We're trying to understand all that data That's the machine learning layer. And then finally, there's the presentation layer, which is all this generative AI, ChatGPT, all that stuff that you're hearing a lot about. The goal is really there to not to help people understand that it's not something to be scared about, that the generative AI can be that tool, just like the typewriter or the computer, or in this case, a mind map is a tool in the student's flow as well as the educator's workflow. So that's really the goal of that session. Hopefully, again, shooting for August 24th. We'll look to get partners on board and get that session going. In some of the other initiatives, again, just kind of giving a high level overview here, and I want to get into the technology a little bit here, why I'm building some of these things. Um, so I'll leave it at that. When you see the lightning rods, those are products, right? That's how we're testing out the theories and the initiatives that we have. That's how we're validating the designs that we have. That's how we're proving out a lot of the research that we're doing as well. And then the books are those research points, and then the red balloon down here is the education event. And so let me jump in real quick to some of the technology pieces that are key to kind of Kalman's Forge overall and things that were going on, right? And I'll touch on a bit of sort of the tech points that are in each one of these, right? So the interview machine is really about long form interview conversations. And when you talk about long form interview conversations, there's two parts to that. One part is the conversation itself, right? Being able to record that conversation and make sense of that conversation. That's one. The second part is actually being able to hold that conversation, right? How do you talk to the user, the tone, the language? Do you ask a question? Do you ask a follow-up? Is it one follow-up? Is it two follow-up, right? Do you interject? Do you not interject? There's a whole science to that, which I've had a lot of fun doing and hosting shows for the last 6 years, that we can program with some of these new concepts that are coming out, like chain of thoughts, LangChain. Microsoft has a framework as well, where we can now take and think about this logic that's in my head, let's say as an interviewer, and start to build that programmatically to hold that programmatic interview. And so as part of that initiative, what we're going to be using is a lot of the short-term memory, long-term memory primitives that are being built today in LangChain, the sort of agents and tools, if you will, that are also being built in LangChain and the surrounding ecosystems as well, to help, again, further provide resources for the interviewer. If you think of agents are like the staff to the interviewer. So you're going to have an agent that's responsible for segue question. You're going to have an agent that's responsible for searching Google for a follow-up. Maybe you're going to have an agent for validating information on Wolfram Alpha or something. And so the agents are these, backstage production crew that, I clearly don't have. And how do you build a programmatic backstage crew like that? So that's really the goal of that interviewing machine. Once you can hold that long form interview, it can be used in a job scenario. If somebody's trying to look for a job, right? Somebody's trying to write a book, somebody's trying to talk about their business that they're building. It can be used in like mental health, anywhere that data capture is needed, right? When you need in that moment healthcare need, you want to be able to talk to somebody, and maybe somebody's not always available, and you don't want to really talk to a chatbot or a robot. You want to talk to something that's more alive. And so that gets us kind of into the next part of the interview machine, which is if we're capturing all these stories, and the critical piece of that interaction is really that personality. Remember I said that there's that second piece. Well, how do we build that? How do we build that personality? Well, we've been capturing, stories. We've been capturing all these discussions. We're going to partner with a lot of other solutions out there that do log capturing. For example, Ulog is a great example out there that allows you to capture your daily thoughts as you're going along, right? It's a journaling solution. That's a great option, right? And so what we want to do is be able to plug into that, right? Be able to provide an API and an integration with those kind of solutions, so that you as a user, as you record these stories and create these stories, you can ultimately create a digital representation of yourself, right? Because if you're talking about your stories, your moments in time, what you're really sharing is your personality. And as you're building your personality, what can you then do with that personality, right? Especially if it's on chain, right? If we're talking about, in the Web3 world, we're talking about data ownership is really important, right? And so that personality of who I am, those events, all those things exist on chain. Well, I could now use that data, right, that is stored on chain in a generative AI model to create a dynamic personality, right? To create a personality that's created off something unique. And so the tech stack in there again is the large language models, right? If the data, if all those interviews, every time I'm talking, like let's say just a portion of this recording, the transcript was stored on chain because still can't put like a full video on chain. Some chains you can, but if we're just keeping it simple right now, we're talking about the transcript as an example. You have that transcript that then is stored on chain that then becomes almost like an NFT, right? It's just a transaction. All it is a data packet. So if you could break that up even further, right? If me as the user, I can go look at that interaction, I can go look at that transcript, and I can say, well, there's this portion of the transcript, there's that portion of the transcript that I don't want revealed, or maybe other ones I do want revealed, right? There may be more important parts. Maybe I want to monetize certain parts of my memories and certain parts of those discussions. I could, in theory, do that because all the data is on chain. It's not locked away in some silo, right? It's not locked behind anything. It's on a public chain. It's available, and then you can use that to create those personalities. You can sell and monetize that data. And so again, when you talk about the primitives required to do that, you're getting this idea, right? That part of the challenge is we have layer one chains that can't really hold a full length video. You kind of do because there's like a theta, which is an example of a CDN type chain, which is meant and designed to hold storage and video content and deliver that content at the edge. You have, Filecoin and SIA and IPFS, not IPFS, technically, Storage and all those other protocols out there that are meant for decentralized storage of things like videos. But the key part is really putting all these things together, right? And that's when you start putting these things together, that's when they start to make more sense. And so that gets kind of to the final part of the digital storytelling, right? There's an idea in there of, how do you capture all these ideas you're going and keep them on chain? That's what I call the idea chain. Part of that research process, right, as we're going through this interview machine, one of the challenges is with any kind of AI or LM data, and I'll wrap up with this, is the truthness or the correctness of that data. And so the thought is, if we're building all these primitives, we are building custom models sometimes to the needs that we need within the products and protocols that we're developing. Why can we not at the same time, as we understand, how somebody's input gets recorded versus what the AI's response, and we have all that chain and we see that interaction going back and forth, why can we not do something with that to go beyond really this concept of watermarking, right? Proving that AI generated data was created on chain, right? Was created by so and so. And so for the example is, if I said something, if I created something, and I gave a story, for example, and there's an AI that's generated that takes that transcript of, let's say, this show and creates other forms of this show, how do you prove that lineage, right? So that's something I call that proof of correctness. You can call it watermarking. There's a lot of initiatives and a lot of protocols out there that are trying to solve this. And one thing I want to dig into is where are the opportunities? And I think that there are opportunities in this space to further develop the research and understanding. And so that's a big part of the research there. And then there's a bunch of other protocols and projects. Again, there's a full-length video. There's a full-length narrative with about 9 pages and 40 pages of appendices. Thank you to the couple of questions that came in via Slack directly or via chat. Thank you to those that joined in the live stream. The goal, again, to have this show every week. If there's any questions that pop up during the session, please do ask. At the bottom down there, you'll find my links to the different socials. Again, you'll find details and updates to Coleman's Forge and all the things that are published there. And I thank everybody for joining, and thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.